David here with DIY Mountain Bike. We're gonna install the mid-drive motor. So in the past videos, we went through kind of disassembling everything, and we went through what was in the box. In the meantime, I've done a lot of little work on this. I scrubbed the bike down. I stripped it right down to just the bare frame, scrubbed everything up. I put a new rear cassette on it. I put a new derailleur. I did some new cables, cleaned up our brakes, put some higher end brake pads on, did the same with the front, new tires, new shifter, a bunch of good stuff. None of that is required for the mid-motor mount, but I want this bike to last. I want to do some upgrades. I want to keep it around for a while. Let's get into the tools, and then we're going to go slowly, step by step through everything. And on my website, down in the link below, Ride EMTB, I'm going to have like step 1, step 2, step 3, that will be a follow along with exactly what I'm doing. If you've got some doubts, if you want to have some video, written instructions, some tips and tricks along the way, get that article, watch this video, use the two of them in harmony, and you're gonna get this bike done. You're gonna get it done right. You're not gonna miss any steps. Everything's gonna be tight. You're gonna be in good shape. So let's get into the tools and then the step-by-step.
Hey, David here. I'm breaking in real quick. That link I keep mentioning takes you to a step-by-step page. Picking the right bike, what's inside the kit, disassembling your bike, installing the motor, 5 steps for e-bike wiring and components, putting your taillight on, routing and organizing, and then it goes into other items as well. Each one of these pictures you can click on is an article with, in this case, detailed instructions for installing the motor, what tools do you need, and then it includes a video. So I keep mentioning, go to that link below. This is why I've got it all organized in a nice clean format for you to take you from start to end.
So here is the tools that I'm going to use. Tape, pedal wrench, little rubber mallet. Want to get some things good and tight. Optional, this is my cable cutters and crimper for the little ends. Might need a little flashlight for some adjustments. A tool included in the kit, which is our bottom bracket, lock nut tool, screwdriver, some little clippers for our zip ties, a 10mm wrench, and a variety pack of hex wrenches. Also recommend some Loctite and a little bit of grease that we're going to use on our crank. All right, step number 1, fun, right, to start out with, is dropping our mid-drive motor into the bottom bracket. So I got this all cleaned out. Everything's wiped down inside. Slide that guy in. And because I've went through a dry run, I got to show you a little issue you need to keep an eye on. The reduction gear is touching my chainstay. Just barely. I mean, it might just barely. I could probably even take a little bit of material off of motor housing and get out of this problem. But you can get a simple shim. They're 2mm thick that you can slide on and get rid of that problem. So step 1, slide that motor on. Make sure you're not touching your chainstay and you've got good clearance. We'll put our shim on, our spacer, and I'll have a link to that in this video description along with that article. All right, so I have good clearance now. You can see some light there. I got 1mm or so of clearance. We're in good shape. We're going to stick with this driver's side, or the right side of the bike. Step 2 is to install the chain ring and check for clearance. I've got plenty of clearance right here. I'm going to set that there for a second, pick you up. So I've got lots of clearance. Chain ring, chainstay. Plenty of clearance. We're going to go with the stock 46 tooth chain ring. Let's get our bolts. So with the 4mm hex and a little bit of Loctite, so all you got to do is, we're just talking a little dab, and in fact that is way too much. That's enough for 3 of these guys. Start with step 3, we're going to install our right-hand side crank. So you can see the R. But before we put that on, just a little bit of grease, not much at all. We're just putting enough on that we can take that off just on the outside. You don't want it in the inside. In fact, on the inside, we're going to put a little bit of our thread locker, just a little burp in there. Slide this guy on. We're going to get our bolt, stick that in. It's 8mm. All right, good and tight. Next for this side is our pedal. Let's grab it real quick. I bought some new pedals. So I got some new pedals, some Rock Brothers. Nothing real special. And it's got these little gripper nibs. What I like about it is if I don't like them, I can unscrew those guys. So usually a 15mm wrench. Pedal wrenches are nice. They've got a built-in angle, and usually they're thinner in order to reach in those kind of tight little spots. Additional to that is to drop our chain on. So to press our derailleur, we got the chain on. Liking it. Okay, I'm gonna switch the bike around and pause you just for a second. Evan is installing, I'm gonna call it the triangle bracket. So this is a bracket that mounts onto the bottom bracket here like this. Important, hopefully you can see it. There are raised ridges. You need those raised ridges to the bottom bracket. The idea is those will actually indent into the bottom bracket, stop this motor from spinning around. In order to get the most clearance, we want to get that motor up into this up position like this. So it's going to require some pretty good force. Now, because we used that spacer on the other side, I've got to use spacers at my attachments here. So that was a 2mm spacer I made up. Got some washers, and I measured these guys up. 2 of them are 2mm thick. That's going to go between the motor and the triangle housing, triangle bracket. So we got that in. We're going to slide those in. They're just a standard washer. I painted them up just to make them nice and pretty for this application. We're going to do the same. So we're going to tighten these guys up just a little bit more than finger tight. We'll look down. I want this triangle bracket to almost be on like a little bit of an angle out in order to drive it as best I can, get full touch all the way around. All right, still move it. Got it on. Maybe you can see it. There's a little bit of a gap here at the top. It's touching the bottom. I mean, we're talking 0.5 millimeter there. Once I get my locking bolts on, that's going to push that whole thing in with some good force. So that's next. All right, step 8, a little bit of Loctite. So there are 2 rings. This is like a cover ring, not as heavy duty as this metal ring here. So we're going to screw that on. So how tight? 50 to 60 Newton meters is tight. All right, so we are going to putting on our beauty ring cover. Do not have to go as crazy with this being tight. It covers everything up nice. All right, using our tool again. We're good. Just putting our crank on. A little bit of grease. Put that on so we can get it off later. We're gonna put a little bit of Loctite inside. You gotta watch that you go opposite the direction of the driver's side, the drive side, right? You don't want to be doing the rabbit pedal. Right. Now it might look like this is sticking out a long ways from our bottom bracket, but honestly, it's right where it needs to be in order to clear the motor casing. Got our 8mm out again. We're just putting on our pedal. Again, on the left side, it's a reverse thread. The motor is on. Have a little sip of coffee, enjoy the moment, and we're gonna jump into installing stuff on the handlebars.